Good evening, everyone. We are excited to welcome you today to hear an overview of the Oregon Public University system, or the Oregon Public Universities. My name is Adrienne, and I work with Oregon Goes to College, and we're excited to be celebrating College Application Week all this week and next. And we are thrilled to have some representatives from a few different universities here in Oregon to talk with you tonight. And just before we get started, I want to remind you that you can find more information about going to college in Oregon on any of the college's websites or at OregonGoesToCollege.org. And you can learn more about each of these colleges through some short videos on a virtual college night on the website. So I definitely encourage you to check that out when you get a chance. But now I'm going to hand it over to Heather, who's going to get us started.
Great. Thanks, Adrienne. So I'm going to just share my screen here while we do some introductions so that you know exactly who is talking to you this evening. So my name is Heather Wofford. I'm the Senior Assistant Director of Admissions for Multicultural Recruitment at Oregon State University. Normally I'm located in Corvallis on campus, but coming to you from home, work at home. So I'm really excited to talk with you more about Oregon State and to help answer questions that you have tonight. I originally went to college because, something that my parents had talked about their experience in college, but I always loved to learn. I loved being in school, and, the career that I had originally been interested in required a degree. And so I was very glad to find an institution that fit those needs, but also gave me a path to my current position in higher ed, helping other students find their path to college. So excited to talk with you tonight. And I'm just going to pass it to the next person on my screen, which is Melea, to introduce herself.
Thanks, Heather. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Melea Tejedas, and I work for the Office of Admissions for the University of Oregon. University of Oregon is located in Eugene, Oregon. I am actually regionally based for the U of O in Portland, Oregon. So I live and work in Portland, and I typically serve students from the Portland area who are interested in the U of O. I have worked for the Oregon Public University system for almost 9 years now. So I'm a very big advocate of all of the universities that are here today. And I'm an SOU alum and really excited to be able to talk to you about the different opportunities that we all have to offer. One of the reasons that I attended college was, to be quite honest, because my parents told me that I had to. So I didn't really have a choice, but it was really the best experience that I could have ever imagined. I came from a family where we didn't have money for me to attend college. And so that was certainly something that, I relied on the support from admissions counselors and my high school counselors and folks like the people that we have here in the room to really help me through the process and help me find scholarships and really make college possible for me. So I was really grateful for that opportunity, and it was the best thing my parents ever made me do. So I will go ahead and pass the proverbial mic on to Alassane.
Hi, thanks, Melea, and thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Alassane. I am the Portland Regional Representative for Eastern Oregon University. So I too am based in Portland, so about 4 hours away from our main campus in La Grande. I originally kind of got started looking at schools really just kind of because it was expected, but then also just trying to find something a little bit different, It was kind of, as a high school student, it was kind of interesting to the idea that you could pick your own schedule and you could, have classes that start at noon and you could be done with class by noon if you want. That was probably the most compelling thing that get me really interested in college when I first started out. I will pass it to Brittany.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brittany Preston. I'm the Director of Admission and Recruitment at Oregon State University-Cascades. We are Oregon's newest public university located in Bend, Oregon. And I'm lucky to live here in Bend, Oregon. And then tonight I will also be talking about Western Oregon as well. But I was very lucky. I went to a high school that definitely pushed college and talked about the importance of a bachelor's degree and how many doors will get opened for you. So I, much like my colleagues on this call tonight, didn't really have a choice. That's what I was going to do. And I had a great support system for that. but it was truly the best decision I ever made. Many of us on this call did not think we were going to be working in admissions. There's not a degree for that, but a college degree definitely opened the door for us to have this career. And we all find our way to admissions in different ways. I actually worked in journalism for a while, and then now I've worked in college admissions for 13 years. So when we get to the Q&A question, I can answer questions not just about OSU and OSU-Cascades, but just about your search in general. And my advice to you tonight is you're on the edge of a really exciting adventure. I mean, when else in your life do you get to decide where you're going to live, what you're going to study, and what exciting adventure you're going to be a part of? So I'm so excited you're joining us tonight, and I really wish you the best as you start to look at schools and imagine your future.
Great. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the formal presentation, and after that we'll be doing questions. So feel free at any point to type those questions into the chat boxes that you're watching from, and we'll make sure that we cover as much information as we can. As you probably noticed from your screen, there are quite a few schools that are listed here. There are 8 schools that are public universities in the state of Oregon, and there's only a couple of us. So we're going to be representing our coworkers and our peers, our friends from other institutions. So even if the school you're interested in isn't here, know that we're happy to try to answer any questions that you have and direct you to some contacts at those schools as well. So one of the things that we want to start talking about first is, why stay in Oregon? A lot of students think, I've lived here for a while. Maybe you're finishing up high school and you think, well, maybe I should try somewhere else. Maybe I should go to a place I don't know, leave the state. And that might be the best fit for you. That might end up being the path that you take. But we also want you to consider how well a school in Oregon actually might fit your needs and your interests. Because even though you may have been living here for a while, or maybe just even a few years, there are a lot that our institutions can offer you that will be different from what your experiences were in high school, or maybe even where you're living. So, there's a few things that we're going to cover. And one of the first is really the cost savings, right? So you may have noticed as you start your college search that as you look at out of state schools and in-state schools, you see a pretty big difference between the tuition. You might see it referred to as out-of-state tuition and in-state tuition, or resident tuition versus non-resident tuition, right? So non-resident for a state that you don't currently live in. And there's a pretty big difference for a lot of schools in that. And that's because when you are going to school in state, you have been slowly kind of paying towards your education through your taxes, you and your family. So that is why you're going to see a little bit of a break between that in-state and out-of-state tuition, because you're already kind of paying into the education system as a resident of Oregon. So you get the benefit of paying in-state tuition. If you go out of state, you have not been paying towards taxes in those other states. So you are going to have to pay the out-of-state tuition costs. So it's definitely something you want to think about, is that extra cost savings by staying in-state. Also, you want to think about the different locations, right? We are spread all throughout the state of Oregon. We all offer our own variety of environments and atmosphere, fun activities to do on and off campus. And there's actually a lot to choose from, right? Oregon is a really great state because it has so many different things to do, and each corner is a little bit different and has things they can highlight. And that's definitely true for our universities as well. You'll see a map in the next slide that shows and highlights where we're at. And then you'll also see a diversity of program selection. So as you're thinking about what career you want to move towards, what major you're interested in, maybe what types of classes that you want to study, you'll definitely want to put some thought into which university is going to be the best fit for you academically. What's really going to get you the degree that you need to move forward with your next steps towards your career. And between all of the different schools, we pretty much have you covered. It's hard to find a major that is not offered in the state of Oregon. So whether you're looking at something, for journalism or engineering, maybe you're thinking about studying a second language, economics, dance, there's tons of different things that you can study in college. And between all of the different public universities, we represent them all. So even though we might not all have the exact same ones, you can find it within the state of Oregon. Another great thing to think about when going in-state is the transferability of credits from the Oregon community colleges. So, a lot of you in high school may be taking classes right now as a current high school student at your local community college, or maybe you're even considering starting at a community college first before you enter a four-year school. And both of those are great opportunities. We have a lot of great community colleges in Oregon that can also get you started off towards your career. But having credits go between an Oregon community college and one of us is really easy because we're very familiar with all of those community colleges and we receive a lot of those credits each year. So you can look at our websites and see how those credits have transferred in the past. You know that we're going to be working with our local community colleges to make sure that those credits are applying to degree programs on our campus and making sure that students have a good connection between their local schools and the institutions that are the public universities in the state of Oregon. So that's definitely a great option. That being said, it doesn't mean if you go to a community college in Oregon and you transfer out of state that you lose all your credits, right? We take credits from out of state institutions too, but it's nice when it goes in-state to in-state because we're really familiar with those institutions. So it usually just makes it a little easier and more transparent for you along the way. So those are just a few things that we wanted to make sure that we highlighted before we moved on to some specifics about each institution. But of course, there's so much more that are benefits with staying in state. So like I mentioned in the previous slide, there's a lot of different locations and places that you can study within the state of Oregon. And this map is really helpful because you can see we're spread all throughout the state. So whether you're looking for an urban environment, a college town, maybe something a little bit more rural that gives you great access to the outdoors, you're going to find all of those different locations at our public institutions. So you want to go to a small town, big city, you want to go far away from home, close to home. Oregon's a big state, so you could really find that range within the public universities as well. So with that, we're going to get started with some specifics about each individual school. And we'll start it off on the east side of the state with Alassane.
Awesome, thank you. So Eastern Oregon University, we're a small public four-year liberal arts college. We're in La Grande, Oregon. So if you're not too familiar with that side of the state, we're about 4 hours east of Portland. So hop on the 84. We're about 2 hours from Tri-Cities, Washington, 2.5 hours from Boise, 4 hours from Bend, to kind of put things in relation. We have 1,500 students on campus, so your average class size is less than 25. The smallest class we even offer is 2 students. So for us, the most important thing is that face-to-face one-on-one time where you actually know your professors and they know you and you actually have a relationship that you can build over the course of your 4 years for your undergrad degree. Programs all over the place, but business administration is a top one for sure. Pre-med has about 96% acceptance rate into medical school. Pre-law, 95%. Education has been top-notch since we got started in the 1920s. We actually have a program with Oregon State University. So if you're looking to do anything in agriculture science or rangeland science, you can be a dual enrolled student and you can be on our campus, but also earn your OSU degree at the same time. And then I guess final little bit, if you like the outdoors, hiking, skiing, snowboarding, kayaking, canoeing, rock climbing, swimming, camping, all that is literally in your backyard. So yeah, feel free to look us up for more information. Thank you.
Just a few things that you can do outside there in Eastern Oregon. I like that you can name them off so quickly, Alassane. Very impressive. So the next one I want to talk about is Oregon Institute of Technology. You might know it as Oregon Tech or OIT. A lot of people will shorten their name. So Oregon Institute of Technology is unique because it has 2 locations. So you might be familiar with those Hustle and Owls in the Wilsonville campus just outside of Portland, or down on their primary campus in Klamath Falls in Southern Oregon. So they have 2 different locations depending on what majors you're looking for, maybe what location best fits you and your current goals or situation. So definitely want to consider that you have both those options, and they have a lot of things that are available online as well. So if you're not able to maybe even go to a campus, you have the opportunities to do it online too. They're going to be a small to mid-sized school in the state of Oregon, so only about 5,300 students, and that's going to be spread between the 2 campuses, although you're going to see most of those going to be at the Klamath Falls campus down in Southern Oregon. They have a number of different programs, but probably the things they're most well known for is what you see on your screen there: engineering technologies. They have a lot of programs in allied health professions, and that's something that's pretty unique within the state. Some of the health programs that we're not able to offer at other public universities, Oregon Institute of Technology has. So if you're thinking about something like nursing, they might be a great program for you to go look at. They also have communication studies and applied sciences. So definitely a variety. You want to make sure when you're thinking about your applications to Oregon Institute of Technology that you're getting those in so you can get some access to scholarships, right? You see application and scholarship priority is March 1st. So that seems far away right now, but it'll go fast. So, if you're interested in Oregon Institute of Technology, make sure you're getting those applications in soon so you can stay on track. And then we're going to move on to Oregon State, which is the school I work with. You might be able to tell from the beaver flag behind me here, proud of that orange and black. So Oregon State is Oregon's largest public university. Overall, we have about 32,000 students, and a lot of our students, we have a pretty good e-campus program, which is our online degrees. But a majority of our students are located in Corvallis, Oregon, which is about 26,000 students total on campus. So definitely a large school. But it's nice because, you can get from one side of campus to the other in 15 minutes, right? So a lot of students are a little nervous about the size, but really we're a small campus at heart. You can't get anywhere without running into someone that you know. It's really easy to get across campus. So definitely a fun place to call home. There's over 200 different majors at Oregon State. So you're going to find a pretty big range in what our students study. Some of the things that we're really well known for include agricultural sciences. That's our founding college. So a lot of opportunities there. Our largest college is engineering. So if you're looking for a program like mechanical engineering or nuclear engineering, we even have a nuclear reactor on campus, pretty cool, to the natural resources, environmental sciences, marine biology with our Hatfield Marine Science Center out on the coast of Newport. I love those pre-professional programs as well. A great opportunity to study at Oregon State. You definitely want to make sure that you're getting those applications in as soon as you can, because we want to make sure we can get you a decision back in time to give you enough space to apply for scholarships, move on to next steps, because the admissions process is really just that first step, right? There are some other things that follow up after that. So we recommend that you apply early if you're considering Oregon State. That way we can help you through the process and you can, get started. So we're going to move on to Brittany. I'll give you the mic.
Thanks. So if you like the idea of Oregon State University, but the size is intimidating, or maybe you're only considering small schools, you might want to look at OSU-Cascades. I previously mentioned we are the newest Oregon public university. We just opened our campus in 2016. So we are a smaller place at the moment. This number was actually our official number last year. We're getting a little bit closer to 1,400 students on campus, but average class size is 18. So you're going to get a lot of that one-on-one attention, small class sizes. You're going to get to know your faculty, but a lot of the research that OSU is known for, you're going to still get to take advantage of. So a lot of those hands-on research projects just in a smaller setting. We have kind of your traditional degrees such as biology and psychology, but then we have some unique ones like outdoor products, tourism, recreation, adventure leadership, and we currently are the only hospitality management program as well. So if you want to work in hotels or you want to work at resorts, some of our students have even gone on and worked, for different companies that do different outdoor activities for their employees. But definitely students love the location of Bend. We're in the center of the state. If you have never been to Bend, Oregon, it's definitely a tourist hub. We have about 100,000 people. We're right at the base of the mountains. So a lot of our students love skiing and mountain biking and hiking. There's a great downtown area and a river that comes through town. So it's a really fun place to go to college. And you get the benefit of being here at the beginning of an exciting adventure. All the buildings are brand new. We're opening our new academic building this fall. So if you're a senior, you'll get to take advantage of that. And then as far as admissions, we follow the same guidelines, and we even share an application with Oregon State University. So on the application, you can actually apply to both of us, or you can apply to one of us. You can indicate which campus you want to apply to. But like Heather said, the earlier you get the application in, the sooner you get a decision, the sooner you learn about scholarships and financial aid. So I definitely would use some of this COVID-19 time, when you're at home, to apply to all of our schools and really consider them.
Well, I'm going to jump in now and talk a little bit about Portland State University, which is easy for me to talk about because it's right in my backyard where I live in Portland. Portland State University is one of the larger universities here within the Oregon Public Universities, located right in the heart of downtown Portland. So if you are a student who is really looking for that urban experience in college, you love being in the midst of the hustle and bustle of a city, and access to really great foods. The food carts are right across the street, really great access to public transportations. You can live on campus or off campus. Portland State University might be a really great fit for you. Again, with about 27,000 students, it is a larger campus. And like I mentioned, there are students who live on and off campus at PSU. So if you are local to the Portland area, you're not required to live on campus. You could live at home and attend PSU, or you can live in the residence halls as well. They're really well known. I suppose their slogan is "Let knowledge serve the city." And so they're really well known for their ties to Portland and the internships available and work that students can do within the community. A lot of their notable majors include things like engineering, music, social work, accounting, psychology, management, leadership, film, etc. If you are interested in applying to PSU, they do have a priority application and scholarship deadline of February 1st. And PSU is known for their program 4 years free. So if you are an Oregon resident, and you do have to be eligible to submit the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. So if you're an Oregon resident, you submit the FAFSA and you meet certain GPA criteria, you have to apply by May 1st and submit your transcripts by August 1st. The 4 years free covers the cost of tuition and fees for your 4 years at PSU. So it's a really great scholarship opportunity for Oregon residents.
And then I'll hop in for Southern. So Southern Oregon University, they're located in Ashland, so a little bit south of Portland, about the same distance from Eastern. They're a really cool small town. On campus, you have lots of different theater activities, lots of music ensembles, lots of different ways to get, integrated into the community in very creative ways. About 6,000 students on campus, so kind of the smaller mid-sized school. So if you're looking for that, you know everyone on campus, kind of get to know the community, know the professors, that's a really good feel for you in Southern. Notable majors, business, criminal justice is actually really, really top notch. So I highly recommend looking into them if you're interested in anything like psychology or social psychology or criminal psychology. I can't talk really highly enough about it. Really cool. Education, they have a very solid education program, healthcare administration, and outdoor adventure and leadership. So kind of like if you're looking to run a summer camp, or if you're looking to work with students and campers outside of the regular, typical classroom setting, that's a really great option for you, as well as majors. Then once again, theater, can't talk about theater enough with Southern. They have the Shakespeare Festival in Ashland every single year, save this year, but it's really popular, brings in people from all over the world, and it's a pretty solid place if you're, once again, into Shakespeare and theater. So they do have a rolling application deadline, which means that you can apply pretty much until a few weeks before classes start, but I highly recommend applying as soon as possible, with the priority deadline being February 1st for scholarships. Priority deadline for February 1st for application and 15th for scholarships. The earlier the better. If you apply too late into January or February and then you miss like a transcript or something, you might be kind of looked over for a couple scholarships. So earlier the better. Yeah, cool. Southern Oregon University. Thank you.
All right, jumping back in to talk about my university, the University of Oregon. Go Ducks. So the University of Oregon is located in Eugene, Oregon, which is a very quintessential college town. So when you walk into downtown Eugene, you see green and yellow in all the store windows, you see the duck everywhere. It really is a very fun and supportive place for students to live because the community really supports the campus. Eugene is about 2 hours south of Portland, 2.5 hours north of the California-Oregon border. We're an hour from the Oregon coast, an hour from the Cascade Mountains, so really nicely centrally located in the state. We do have about 23,000 total students on campus, so we consider ourselves kind of a Goldilocks size university, not too big, not too small. but a lot of great resources as a tier 1 research institution. Some of our notable majors are programs like architecture. We have great programs in business like sports business, entrepreneurship, and marketing. We have a education program ranked top 5 in the nation, great school of journalism and communications, but we're really also very well known for the STEM fields, biology, marine biology, human physiology, if you're interested in the health profession. And we are just opening up a brand new campus, the Knight campus, which is dedicated to research and innovation in the sciences. That just is opening up this year. So we're really excited about that new development for students in the STEM fields. If you're interested in applying to the U of O, our regular deadline that is coming up in a couple months is January 15th. So that is a deadline you don't want to miss for admission and scholarship consideration. And related to scholarships, I also want to mention a scholarship called Pathway Oregon. If you are an Oregon resident, and this is similar to 4 years free from PSU, if you're an Oregon resident and you have a 3.4 GPA and you are eligible, you have financial need demonstrated by the FAFSA, then we cover the cost of your tuition and fees for all 4 years. Additionally, you also receive advising and tutoring and financial support through the Pathway program. So it's a really phenomenal scholarship opportunity for Oregon students as well.
And last but not least, we've got Western Oregon University. WOU is located in Monmouth, which is just kind of south of Portland and then just west of Salem. So really easy access to those cities, but it's in a nice college town. They were actually voted one of the safest public universities in Oregon. So definitely for safety and kind of that quintessential college feel as well. It's got old brick buildings, beautiful grassy lawns. It's a really beautiful campus, especially this time of year with the fall colors. A long time ago, they were known as a teaching college, so their education program is very strong. They also have a unique program in American Sign Language, as well as programs in criminal justice, psychology, business, education. About 46% of their students are first generation. So if you are the first in your family going to college, you will not be alone at Western. And a lot of students have support systems through programs like TRIO and that sort of thing. As far as application deadlines and scholarships, you'll notice this slide says March 1. So I recommend applying even a little bit earlier than that if you can, so that you get all the information you need, but you do have a little bit of time before that. And then priority admissions is February 1. Western is on rolling admissions. So whenever you apply, it's about 4 to 6 weeks until you get a decision. They also have some new scholarships. So if you haven't watched their video on the Oregon Goes to College website, I definitely recommend it. And they kind of highlight how you apply for those scholarships. But that is Western Oregon.
Great. Well, we hope that was helpful to give you a little overview of what we have to offer in the state of Oregon. So this time is really for us to answer the questions that you have to make sure we're getting you the information that you need to be prepared for college. But, as you might have seen from our presentation, there are some things that we have and similar to each other that are really, familiar at each of the campuses. And then there are going to be things that are really different. And between the four of us, we have quite a few years in admissions and higher education. So we're happy to talk with you about the information in general. But for university specific questions, we might not be able to answer them all for some of the schools that aren't here, but can definitely direct you to our counterparts at those schools to get that specific information. But we're happy to answer whatever questions we can tonight. So one of the first ones that we have is, I think, for Brittany, if you don't mind taking this one, is if you could tell us a little bit about what common admission requirements are there in Oregon, and what are some differences that people might want to make sure they're checking in with their admissions advisor about?
Great question. So there are, again, some things where we're very similar and some where we're very different. But where we are very united right now is Oregon Public Universities is in our test optional policies. So we actually were all talking and working together before COVID even started about getting rid of our test ACT or SAT requirements as part of the admissions process, just because it's been a barrier for some students. There's also benefits to having access to test prep and things that cost a lot of money. So when COVID came along and now you can't get a test very easily, it just was a clear slam dunk for all of us to go test optional. So I do recommend paying attention and reaching out to schools if test optional applies to their scholarships. So while we are all united in being test optional for admission requirements, we all differ slightly when it comes to scholarships. So some of us are test optional for scholarships, some of us are test blind, and then some of us are still requiring test for scholarships. And if you don't know what test optional means, that means you have the opportunity to submit scores if you want to, or you can choose not to submit scores. It's totally up to you. If you have a set of scores that you're really excited about, go ahead and submit them. But if you were not happy with your scores or you were unable to take a test, don't worry about it. You can still be admitted. So most of us take what's called a holistic approach to admissions. And what that means is we're going to really look at your high school transcript. And we're not just going to look at your GPA. We're going to look at the classes you were taking, the grade trends, the rigor of the courses. I'm sure your high school counselors have talked about your senior schedule and making sure that you're taking rigorous classes. And we're going to be looking at all of those types of factors. And then additionally, we're going to look at activities or involvement, volunteer work, service work, working or supporting your family. All of those factors will be looked at. I do know where we differ a little bit. For example, OIT has a pretty set formula for calculating GPA. I believe U of O this year is also asking that you enter in your transcript and your grades and your classes. So there's a little bit difference in the application there. So it is helpful when you see like a minimum GPA or a recommended GPA. That's where it's helpful to reach to the admissions office and find out, is that weighted or unweighted? How do you calculate that GPA? Those are just some good questions. But I encourage you, most of you are probably applying to 4 or 6 schools, or maybe your list is even shorter. Build a relationship with your admission counselor. You saw tonight, we're not scary people. We truly are here to help you. So you can learn a lot from our websites, but if you have a one-on-one appointment with us, we can talk about your personal situation and really advise you. I will say none of the Oregon Public Universities are extremely selective. Some are more selective than others, but generally, if you're doing well in high school, you've been involved, you've performed well, getting decent grades, you're going to be successful at all of our institutions. So, yeah.
Great. Before I move on to my next question, I just want to check in with Melea and Alassane if they have any additional things that they want to add or think would be helpful around that topic.
I think that was great. I think that was a really, I think you covered it really well, Brittany. Yeah, and I think just really being, paying attention to the difference between admission and scholarships, like Brittany mentioned before, is really key when you're looking at any school that is test optional.
Great. Alassane, so if a student, is looking at the admission requirements, they're confused, they have questions, what steps do you advise students to take in order to reach out to a university, or who should they contact if they don't know where to go?
Yeah, great question. Brittany touched on it a little bit, but I'll expand. Get to know your admissions counselors. We are here for you. We are in service to you, the student. So if you have any sort of question, if it's your first time applying, if you're the first person in your family to apply, there's no such thing as a dumb question. We see applications literally all day coming through. And so we're very familiar with our applications. Even if you have questions about another university and you're looking for a comparison, there's a lot of great universities out here, especially in the state, your public ones that you're looking at. But just ask us. That's probably the key takeaway that I would say. Don't be afraid. We're really nice people. If you're in admissions, you probably like talking with people. So yeah, just ask us, and we're more than happy to help. And if we don't know, we can point you in the right direction.
Awesome.
And Heather, how do you find an admission counselor? Like if I was looking at a school, where do I find their contact information?
Good question. Well, if you want Malea's, I'll just give you her direct cell phone number. You can message me and I will hand that out. No, so it's a great question. You know, it's as easy as just Googling. You just go on there and type in Eastern Oregon University admissions staff, and you'll see Alassane's information pop up. Most of us have a website like that to find your admissions advisor, including if you're looking at other universities, right? You can also contact the main admissions office. They can direct you to someone to talk with. And also your college counselor at your high school can be a good contact as well, right? They work with us frequently and are able to direct you to someone from the school that can give you some more advice. So, yeah. Melea, next question is for you. So if I'm an undocumented or documented student, can I still attend a public university in Oregon? And what do I need to do to make sure that I am able to have my application reviewed?
Absolutely. And that is a great question. And the answer is absolutely yes. You are welcome and encouraged to apply. So a couple of things that are important to note if you are a non-US citizen. I know that so a couple of our universities have really great web pages that actually outline exactly how you should apply based on your citizenship status. So if you're a refugee, if you're undocumented, if you're documented, if you're on temporary protected status. I know sometimes it can be confusing. It's like, which application do I use? And, what is my residency versus my, citizenship? And so most of our web pages have admissions counselors that you can find that are really dedicated specifically to working with students who are, either who are non-US citizens or who are specifically DACA or undocumented, and can help you individually through the process. But a couple of things that I think are important to note is that if you apply using the Common App or the Coalition app, which U of O and Oregon State are both on, it's important to note that the system routes you as an applicant, as an international applicant. So it is important to know that if you apply, and I'm assuming that this is the case for Oregon State, but I guess I'll let you confirm, but it is important to reach out to the school once you have applied to make sure that that can be changed on the back end. That is something that is a Common App functionality. Our schools don't have control over that. So as you answer the questions, ultimately makes it seem like you are an international student. So we do want to make that change on the back end so you are considered a domestic student for admissions purposes. So you would reach out to myself or to Heather and just let us know, and we can make that change for you. Another important thing just to mention is that in the state of Oregon, if you meet the criteria, House Bill 2787, HB 2787 passed a number of years ago, where if you've lived in the state of Oregon for a number of years, if you've attended an Oregon high school, if you meet certain criteria, basically if you've lived in the state of Oregon for a while, but you just don't have, you are undocumented or documented, or it even could apply to international students as well, you can apply for tuition equity. And what that means is that if you submit the tuition equity form, let's say you're interested in the U of O, you apply to the U of O, you're a non-resident for tuition purposes because of your citizenship status, and you submit the tuition equity form, it allows you to pay Oregon resident tuition rates. So it's a great thing that the state of Oregon has set up for students, so that you've lived in Oregon, you are a resident of Oregon for tuition purposes, and we really want to honor that and give you the opportunity. We want to make it as affordable as possible for students to be able to attend and really break down those barriers. So if you are applying to any of the Oregon public universities, just really make sure that you look into that tuition equity program to see if you do meet the criteria, so that you can be considered for Oregon resident tuition. Heather, is there anything, or Brittany, anything you want to mention about the Common App in particular with the international student piece? I hope that wasn't too confusing.
No, yeah. So I would just, we have some clarifying questions built into the application to try to help get that on the front end. But Melea's right. It's always good to connect with your admissions advisor to make sure that you're not missing any material and that you are classified the correct way in the application so that you move forward with the review smoothly. The only other things I would just add is know that when we ask you for this information, that's all held privately, right? It's secure. We're not passing that information out. It's even hard to get for other people who work for our institutions. That's all held within the admissions office specifically to make sure you get through the application process. So we're not giving out any of that information. And also to know that tuition equity, as Melea covered, very important, but a lot of scholarships are still available to students who are undocumented and documented. So, you can still earn scholarship money through the universities as well with that. So anyone else, Alassane or Brittany? Okay.
There's so much we can talk about. I feel like we can talk about that topic for a long time. Got a lot of great info to share on that. Yeah,
definitely. Perfect. So next question, Alassane, can you talk a little bit about what the college experience is like with COVID and social distancing? What are students kind of experiencing right now and what should they be aware of?
Yeah, so COVID is very challenging, and I think in a oddly optimistic light, it's kind of made us move in a direction to kind of make things more equitable for everyone across all platforms. So we actually, Eastern Oregon, I'm not sure about the other schools, but we are open for students. So the process was students came on campus on a Monday and they self-quarantined in the residence halls and then took their test at the same time they arrived on campus. And then once they got their results a few days later, then they were released to class. Classes have been spaced out, and any class over a certain number was either split or moved online, but the majority of our classes are still in person, which is kind of cool. So with that, I think the biggest thing I'm hearing from students is that the day-to-day, their lunch and mealtime has been most affected. They're not allowed to sit in groups of more than 3 people, but kind of going with the punches with that. If a student does test positive, then they are quarantined to their suite, and then their resident assistant works with them to bring them meals every day and to bring them laundry and trash service, everything like that. So their day-to-day life can still be handled, online, virtually in the residence halls. And yeah, that's probably the biggest change. And I guess, what was the second part of the question?
I think you got it. I think
okay, cool.
You got it all. Maybe Melea and Brittany, anything you want to add with the larger institutions? Some of the things are operating a little differently just because of the size. So maybe will one of you feel free to answer that question? Give to Melea. Go.
Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. So we at the U of O, we about 90% of our classes are online. So we expected more students to want to live at home, but we still have about 3,000 students living on campus, which is a pretty significant number. So our residence halls are open, and we did give students that option. So we do, we do still have planned social activities in the residence halls and around campus, but they are in very small numbers and socially distanced. And we've just been very careful with how we've managed those. And residence halls, we don't have triples. We only have doubles this year. We have shower curtains dividing the rooms. We have most of the common spaces are not open for like students to hang out in. So it is a little bit different, but I think we've tried to do our best to really roll with the punches and provide students with some type of a social experience, regardless of the odd circumstances. And I think, like everyone, we're really hopeful. We don't know what's going to happen by next year, but of course, we're very hopeful that we can offer freshmen next year a fairly normal college experience. That's our hope.
Definitely. And I think from the work that we've been doing with some of the counselors in state and out of state, I think the Oregon Public University did a great job of keeping people up to date with kind of what was happening, what to expect, as far as we know, right? It's always changing. We kind of have to monitor the situation. And that kind of brings us to our next question, Brittany, if you don't mind. So if students aren't quite sure, they don't want to take remote classes, we're still waiting to hear what's going to happen for next fall, or maybe they're a little unsure about, what steps should they take if they don't know they're going to be going to a campus or what the situation is going to be. Should they still be applying right now as a senior? What advice do you have for them as they're starting that college search?
I'm so glad this question was asked because I think it's really important in this environment. If you are a senior and you're not quite sure if you want to go next fall, please go ahead and apply as if you were going next fall. And the reason I say that is that way you're set up for success next fall. You're going to be considered for scholarships and financial aid. You're going to get all the admitted student events and admitted student communication. And then if we are still in the same environment that we are today, all of our Oregon public universities have been extremely flexible and worked with students. So if you decided you wanted to defer your admission, or if you wanted to continue to take classes from home remotely, even the institutions that are open usually have some kind of remote modality. So for example, we're smaller at OSU-Cascades, so about 50% of our classes are on campus or have some in-person component, but 100% of them are accessible via Zoom. So students can stay where they live and continue their education. I did have a lot of conversations over the summer with families who were talking about gap years or time off. And the advice I often shared with them is if you're going to be at home in your own room, you're not going out and having the gap year that most students have, exploring different countries and exploring different cultures. What a better time to work on your education and stay on track for graduation. Because there is a lot of research out there that shows if you take a little bit of time off, it's a little harder to get up started again. It's a little harder to get motivated to get back enrolled in classes. So while if we stayed remote, while it may not be that college experience you were imagining, you're still getting your degree. You're still getting those great benefits of that higher education. So keep that in mind. But regardless of where you are with your decision, yes, apply right now. And then the school will work with you on deferring or changing your term. We even deferred some students up to 2 years because they had made an intentional decision to step away for a little while. So we're going to be as flexible as we can given the environment, and we're going to examine the environment and decide, what we feel comfortable as an institution and what we feel is as safe as we can be. And that's the reason a lot of us are taking the steps that we're taking.
Great. So for those students who are ready and they're starting those applications and they get to the end and they see an application fee, most universities have a fee you have to pay to submit your application, but that might be the holdup. Alassane, what can you tell us about fee waivers for college and how they might look for them at our public universities?
Awesome question. So there's two pieces. So some have fee waivers and there's another one called a fee deferral. And so a fee waiver is maybe based on your economic standing at the current moment or family situation, or there's a lot of different factors that go into it. But a fee waiver basically says that if there's a $50 fee, you're not going to pay that fee. Typically, you would sign it, or you would have your parents sign it and your high school counselor sign it. And then you just submit that to your admissions officer or representative, and then you're set to go. And then a fee deferral, that's a little bit more involved where, so for us at Eastern, if a student signs a fee deferral, has their counselor sign it, and then submits it to us, that basically says, I understand that there's a $50 fee, but I'm not going to pay this fee today, but sometime before I start my classes in the fall of next year, I will pay this fee. So either out of pocket, online, or via check, or even through financial aid or FAFSA. So if you don't have $50 today, you can defer that fee. And then once your FAFSA comes in a couple of months, use that to pay for it and then forget about it. And then finding them, probably as easy as Google blank university fee waiver application, and then you're good to go.
And then some of the Oregon publics also have it built into their application. So when you get to that fee page, it'll ask you a series of questions and you can let us know if you need that fee waived and request that fee waiver. So sometimes it's a separate form, sometimes it's built into the application.
Thank you. for Melea, for the deadlines and terms about applying to admission into the schools, students might hear early action, early notification, early decision, rolling. Can you clarify a couple of these terms and what students should be looking for in terms of our public institutions?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one deadline that none of the Oregon public universities have is early decision. What early decision means, and you typically will see that in I would say most commonly in private universities or highly selective institutions, where they say, you apply to that university by an early deadline, maybe it's November 1st, and they say, if we admit you to that institution, that means you have to attend, that you're selecting us by, you're saying, I'm so interested in this school that if you admit me, I'm going to attend that school. So we typically say if you're applying to an early decision school, you really want to know that that's the school you're going to attend. None of the Oregon public universities have early decision, but some of us do have what is called early action. And I don't know who came up with those terms that are so similar because they do often confuse students, but early action is different because all that means is it's an earlier deadline for you to be considered for admission. It may come along with some additional opportunities. So for example, at the U of O, if you apply by our early action deadline, which is November 1st, the only benefit is there's one scholarship that you have to apply to the U of O for early action to be considered for that one scholarship. Everything else, the admissions process, the scholarships, as long as you apply by January 15th, that's our regular decision deadline, you're considered the same for that. So that's just one example of an early action deadline. Some early action deadlines are just for the purpose of giving you, a decision sooner. Some are because they are more competitive for admission and it is easier to get in an earlier round. So it all kind of varies. So that's early decision and early action. Regular decision or regular deadline, that usually means like that's the final deadline, for being considered for the next fall. So a lot of times you'll see early action, early decision deadlines in November. And typically you'll see regular decision deadlines in January, February of that year. So, and then the last different admissions process you'll see is rolling admissions. So a university like Southern Oregon University has a rolling admission deadline where you apply to the university anytime really throughout the year, and they'll notify you on a rolling basis. So typically within 4 to 6 weeks, let's say, of your application being complete, they'll notify you of a decision. So you'll see all across the board, you'll see early action, regular decision, and rolling admissions across the Oregon public universities. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to that?
Only thing I'll add is when I'm working with students, a lot of times I meet with them in October and they're stressed, or right now, November, they're like, oh my gosh, I missed the November deadline. Take that stress away. The early deadlines are really there for students who are super organized and have the essay done and are ready to apply. They just get a decision sooner. The students, if you're sitting there and you weren't ready for it, do not panic. You're going to be reviewed the same. Use the holidays to work on your essay and work on your application. At the end of the day, you want to submit the best application you can. So there's really no rush in the state of Oregon as compared to some states. Again, if that scholarship, you really wanted that scholarship at U of O, then that is important. But for the most students, it's really a personal choice when you apply.
Great. And I think I speak for all of us when we say, don't wait till the deadline to submit that application. Get that in early, even if the school is rolling admissions. It doesn't hurt to apply earlier when you're ready, right? You have the application done. Don't wait until the last minute to get that out there so that you can, move on to those next steps. Take that stress off, applying late. And for some schools, deadlines are deadlines, right? So whether it's in-state or out of state, if you wait to the very last minute and you miss the deadline because your power went out that night, very unfortunate, right? That's out of your control, but you've had months to work on the application instead of submitting it, 5 minutes before the deadline. So it's just something to be aware of, right? Get those deadlines down. Don't wait till the last second and take that stress out by just getting it in when you can, work on it continuously. So, and I think we're coming towards the end of our time here tonight. So I don't see any other questions in our chat. So maybe we'll start off with Alassane. What's the best advice that you would give students, when they're thinking about applying to college, doing that college search? What advice do you have for them?
I'll back it up to about a decade ago when I was in your shoes, applying to colleges, kind of weighing all my options. And the best tip I guess the best tip I had was to visit as many schools as possible, but I understand that's not entirely possible right now. So I guess second best would be getting in contact with your admissions counselor. If you can talk to students who currently go to that university, ask them, what's your day-to-day like? How was your admissions process? How was applying for scholarships? Are there any secret tips that I should know as a student coming in? I really do think that student perspective doesn't get enough, kudos for the amount of, perspective that they do have as students being kind of on the front lines. Admissions, financial aid, we are all here. We love working with you, but also talk to some other students as well.
Great advice. Melea, what would you say to those students today that are listening in?
Oh gosh, I would just say, don't limit yourself by a major. That's one of my best pieces of advice. Sometimes a student will come to me and say, oh, Melea, do you have, mechanical engineering at the U of O. And, if I say no to that, don't necessarily just take the U of O off your list because we don't have mechanical engineering, because we more often than not see students that change their mind or, decide that they want to go a different route, or they know, generally speaking, I'm interested in the sciences or math, but I don't know exactly what major that wants to be. So that could translate for any of us, as you look up the majors that we offer in our schools, don't write a school off your list just because of a major, unless you're absolutely 100% certain that that's what you're going to do for your career. Because if you're just kind of exploring and you've got a lot of different ideas, explore all the different schools that might have a general, at least have some programs that align with your general interests, because it might surprise you. The right fit might be a school that doesn't have the exact major that you're looking for on paper, but it's the place that you really feel at home. And you're going to be successful and thrive in your 4 years there. So that would be my best advice. I changed my major twice, by the way, so if that helps at all.
Brittany?
Mine is a little bit more with scholarships and the application process. One, to have fun with this process. I said that earlier, and realize what a fun time of life this is to choose your college. But my main point is there's almost like 2 application cycles. There's the application for admission, and then there's application for scholarships. And time again, I see seniors put so much energy into that application for admission that they're tired and they just don't have time or energy to apply for scholarships. But it's really almost another round of application to apply for scholarships. And if you think about it, maybe the application takes you 10 minutes. Maybe it does require an essay and it takes you an hour. But if you got $500 or $1,000, you just got paid $1,000 an hour. So it really is carving out time to do that second cycle of applications. And that often gets overlooked, particularly senior year. So there is money out there. You just have to put in the work and the effort. I sat on scholarship committees where we had 1 applicant and the student didn't even meet the requirements, but they were the only applicant. So we awarded it. So really think about, as you're planning out your senior year, I've got to apply for admissions, but I've also got to focus on these scholarship applications. Heather, what's your advice?
Yeah, so I'm going to cheat here a little bit and do 2 things. First one, super easy, best advice. Alassane made me think about this when he said when he was applying for college. The best advice I got when I was applying to college was from my English teacher, who said, change your email address and use an email that you're really going to use, because my email back in the day, right, was like what I had made when I was in 5th grade. So, they were like, change your email to your name and use that for your colleges, and actually check those emails, because we're not trying just to annoy you with emails. We're actually trying to send you information that's really helpful to make sure that this process goes smooth for you and is less difficult. So that'd be my first one that Alassane made me think about today. But my second kind of goes along with what Melea was saying, was don't cut yourself out of an opportunity right away, especially around funding and scholarships and things like that. A lot of times we work with students who they say, well, what's it cost to go there? And they see the cost of attendance and their eyes just get big and they kind of look away like, there's no way I'm ever going to afford that. Well, it's pretty rare then students have to pay that full price to go to college. And until you see your financial aid package, until you hear back on your scholarships and you go through that search that Brittany's talking about, you won't actually know exactly what it's going to cost to go to that school. So apply to the schools that you're interested in. Go through the next steps. Melea talked about it earlier, right? None of us are early decision schools, so you're not committing by applying early. So put your name out there, see what opportunities come back, figure out which one's going to be the best fit based off of your interests and all of that, and then make a decision when you have the full picture, right? Don't just cut yourself out right away when you find out you don't have the major or you're not sure you're going to afford it, because there are lots of ways that you might change your mind or find out you have those resources. So that would be my advice. And I think, we'll pass it to Adrienne to round us out here.
Great. Thank you. Thank you to all of you, Heather, Melea, Alassane, and Brittany. You all provided some really good information and advice tonight. And that is wonderful and really appreciated. And I wanted to also let everyone who's watching know that you can reach out to all 4 of these great folks. And I think it was Brittany who said earlier that you just had the opportunity to see that they're real people. They're not scary. And that's true for admissions folks across the state and across the country. And so definitely feel free to reach out to folks. If you have more questions, you can look at each college's website. A really great place to start in the state of Oregon is at the Oregon Goes to College website. There are links to every Oregon college, public, private, 2-year, 4-year, along with some information there. And also we have new this year, a whole lot of videos and virtual opportunities to be able to learn a little bit more about each of the colleges in the state, including those that are the Oregon Public Universities we learned about tonight. So if you saw something you were interested in and want to learn a little bit more, you can watch another video and learn a little bit more about that. We also have application help available with some videos showing you how to walk step by step through each application. So definitely check out the Oregon Goes to College website. I see that there's another question that came in the chat, and there is. So I'm going to ask this question before we go out because I think it's a good one. And before I ask it, I'm also going to mention that we do have 3 more of these live panel discussions. And for this question in particular, I think that there may be a session coming up next week that would be particularly useful about applying to 4-year universities. And we're going to have some conversation about transfer in that time. But I'll ask it now so that we can get a short answer and then come back and see us next week for the longer answer. And the question is, all the things that you're saying, does that apply to someone who doesn't plan to go to a university until after doing 2 years at a community college, or do they need to apply now for the future?
It's a great question. And a bunch of us jumped in here to answer. I would just say, you want to apply about a year before you're planning on enrolling at an institution, right? So that's generally a good rule of thumb, but there are a lot of different things to consider about transferring, because if you're a high school student now and you're taking a bunch of community college credit now and going to, looking at going to school after this, you might still be considered a freshman even with all that college credit if you're going directly to us, if you're dual enrolled. But also one difference for Oregon State that you might want to check in with Brittany or I later is the degree partnership program, because we see students who are going to go to a community college and want to go to Oregon State later, who can apply now, even if they're planning at being at a community college for 2 years before they start at Oregon State. So they can actually do that application now with the degree partnership program and be enrolled in both, or be ready to go in that 2 years time. So that would be something really specific to Oregon State that you might want to check out. But maybe I saw Melea also unmuted herself, so I'll give it to her if she has anything she wants to say specific about.
That's great, Heather. You got it.
So, and again, there will be more information about transferring when we talk about next week how to apply to four-year colleges and universities. So join us then, or come back to the virtual college night and check out the video about that if you aren't able to join us live. Otherwise, again, thank you to the four of you for spending your evening with us, and thanks to everybody who has been with us watching. We look forward to hearing from you, your questions, and I'm sure folks are looking forward to seeing your applications as well.